Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Views, comments and questions live. Dan here.
Mick here, hello.
Hope you're all doing awesome. Hope you've all
July
had...
tomorrow, Dan.
Sorry?
It's the 4th of July tomorrow.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So to all our American friends, Happy Independence Day.
Yeah. Independence from those ghastly British.
I think it was a long time ago. I think it's just a good party now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope everyone has a fun 4th of July, whatever you're doing, if you're doing anything. If you're celebrating or not, maybe you can have a relaxed time.
Beautiful.
Or a really not relaxed time.
Is it summer
Yes.
now? Okay. So the UK and North America share the same
Yes.
seasons. All right.
Yeah. Confusing from Dan.
It is a bit confusing for me.
He spent the first part of his life standing upside down.
On my head.
Yeah. Because you know how the Earth is flat. On the top you've got America and England, and then underneath you've got Australia
Yeah.
and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway, I'm going to turn the super chats off because we're full already. So first of all, welcome. Hello. I know Dan's already welcomed you, but welcome from me and also from BV, who is diligently in the chat, taking. Oh no, you be quiet, please. Taking care of everything in the comments. Thank you very much, BV.
Yes, thanks, BV.
We greatly appreciate it. But I am going to turn the super chats off because, well, we've got too many. Because we're so popular, Dan.
Don't you know? I had Felix and Hugo from the Maccabees come in today.
Oh, nice. They still going?
Well, no, they've started a new band. The Maccabees aren't going, but they've started a new band.
Yeah.
Called 86 TVs.
86 TVs.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Why?
they're doing stuff and they want to get a rig ready for touring.
I feel like we're a bit closer than normal. Maybe we are.
Lovely boys.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely boys.
Nice.
Yeah. It's great fun.
Where are they from? Are they Scottish?
No, from London, I think.
Oh, are they? Maybe it's because they're called Mac something or other. I just assumed they were from Scotland.
Okay, it's Hugo and Felix White.
New merch.
Look, check it out.
This is the Schwangtastic tee on leaves. Long story. I'm trying to get a t-shirt together that commemorates Shangri-La here, and there's all sorts of flamingos and toucans and things. And I started that, and it all got a bit too complex.
Okay.
So we decided to just simplify for the time being. Put out a Schwangtastic with these nice.
They're really nice.
These nice leaves on. You see.
Oh, they're lovely.
Yeah, it's nice. Kind of
Have you been working out, sir?
No, I have had possibly the most mental week of my life in many years. Just finished, yeah. Anyway, well, have I turned the super chat off? That's the main thing. Yes, I have.
And
if you're new here, don't be confused. It's always like this. Average things come to those who grit their teeth waiting.
nice. And you had a lovely gig on the weekend?
I did, yeah. Yeah, played a gig with. I'm just going to do. These things do my head in, Dan.
Yes.
So we'll just do that. We won't worry about that one.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I did a gig with Paddy, who plays bass in the TPS band, among lots of other things. Jack Duxbury, who you'll know from Anderson's TV, and who's also a good friend of mine and Dan's, and who also plays in the TPS band. And a guy called Gary on drums, who plays with Paddy a lot.
Is that like a Bradford on Thames, Gary on drums, some sort of British?
Well, he's a serious dude. He's got 2 R's in his name.
Okay.
I just think anyone who's got
Gary.
2 R's as a Gary, look out
Right.
for them.
Fair enough.
Anyway, we did it. It's for my neighbour. My neighbour had a garden party, and I stupidly said, "Do you want a band?" And he said, "Yes." So I thought, great, what a good excuse to bring the A-team together. Not Dan,
Definitely B team.
The other A team. It's too far for Dan. And they were just. It was like they're so good.
Yeah.
They are so good. It just makes it then easy to flap around at the front.
Nice.
And if I fall over, which I did many times, I'm so gig unfit. They're fine.
Yeah.
They just hold it together and do something clever. We've always known Jack is good. I got a new glimpse of just how good he is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Just amazing. Anyway, so it was nice to play loud and yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And we had an experience day on Friday as well, which was great fun.
Yeah.
Hello to anyone that's been to an experience day. Yeah.
It was really nice and lovely day. Shout out to Steve, who brought in the Iverson
Yes.
single cut with the Firebird pickups. That was a really fantastic guitar.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And also, massive shout out to Joe Halliday.
Yeah.
So Joe, from Hello Sailor Effects, his wife bought him the experience day as a Christmas present, I believe. And Joe made everyone a pedal.
Everyone that came, including me and Dan.
It was like it was amazing. And Joe's stuff is like incredible, handmade, point to point, just wonderful sounding stuff. And he bought pedals for everyone. It was it was a really beautiful day. A really beautiful day.
It was.
Yeah.
No, we like him. We like him. Fair to say that before we did the first one, we were trepidatious about how it might be.
That's a good word.
Whether it would be in any way awkward or there'd be like unnecessary herding to do or anything like that. But every single one has been. They've been wonderful. We really, really, really look forward to them.
Yeah, they're great.
And weirdly, even though it's a work day, it feels like a day off.
Yeah.
Because we get to hang around with friends who all share the same passion in a kind of. It doesn't feel like work at all. It just
everyone's
feels like
really excited to be
a lovely
here.
day off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Really great.
Cool. Right then, let's see who we've got on today. Oh my goodness me, busy tonight. Funnily enough, Joe Halliday is first in. Joe, your
mate,
generosity is crazy, mate. Thank you so much. Thank you for your amazing generosity of spirit and of cash in this instance.
Blinking heck.
Dude. Crazy person
Wow,
in the most beautiful way. We'll read out your stuff in a minute. Ranzer is on. Colin Diamond is on. Peter Halliburg is on.
Igor Ray Rob.
Hello, Rob. Harrison is on.
Yep, G Budge. Good day, mate.
G, nice to hear from you. Who I believe new guitar day this week, judging by your comment. Jacob Backer or Jacob Backer.
Yep.
Is on.
Oh, Sabadius Electronics is on. So I was in conversation with these guys.
Who?
Sabadius.
Okay.
And they've done Sabadius. Sabadius. And they've done...
it's one of those... It's drum and talk, isn't it?
Sabadius.
Sabadius.
They've done... They've done 3 Univibes of different years.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so I got an email from Robert Keeley introducing me. And it's like, you've got to hear these things. They're my favourite Univibe. Wow. So it's like, yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, we'll get...
we'll do that because Thorpe's just done
done one as well. So it'd be really great. We need another Univibe show.
Yeah.
That'd be really fun.
James Urquhart is on. Carl Longbottom is on. Hi, Carl.
G'day, Carl.
Omega Zero is on.
Tim Houston, Leyland Berg, Centre for Wheelchair Pillow, which always gets me.
Joe Leonard. Hi, Joe.
Chris Quinn.
Scott from Baltimore is on. Mike 2203 is on. Also experienced day. The Great Dell. Sean Garamal. We've had this, haven't we? Jar O Milatos Jaro Mulattoes, he says.
Right.
Good.
Lovely.
Right, let's get into it then. Super chats. Super chat eye up, Captain. From Whit.
From Woo.
Whit Anderson is first in this week. Says the delay show was great. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
For those of you who either haven't watched it or don't know, we did a show on Friday sort of showcasing the DM101, the new mega analog delay from Bose, and just putting it alongside a few things and asking a few contextual questions, shall we say. And we do have to get the Dodd rubber neck, and we do have to get the Carbon Copy Deluxe.
Okay.
And go again.
Yeah, okay.
Get some, go again, to quote my friend Henry Rollins. I stood next to him having a pee once.
Henry Rollins? No way.
I was interviewing the guitar player he was with at the time, and I went out for a pee, and Henry Rollins was having a pee. What do you do when you're having a pee next to Henry Rollins?
I don't think there is a more intimidating / nicer guy on the planet.
Yeah. You met him?
No, but I see, because I've seen him interviewed a bunch of times, and then you see him, and he's so eloquent, he's so educated and so beautifully spoken. Then you see him do his thing, it's like, oh, he's a beast.
Yeah.
An absolute beast.
He was a unit at that point as well. I don't know what he was like.
Yeah.
Anyway, Get Some Go Again was the record, and I thoroughly recommend it. Anyway,
Gordon Rankin says Delay Llama Extreme as well.
Yeah.
That's a really good shout, Gordon.
Yeah.
Hi, mate. Hope you're awesome.
Poor old Ilias and Yanis get so frustrated with me because every time I mention the Delay Llama Extreme, I say how hard it is to use, and they're like, "You're a half-wit. What is wrong with you? It's not hard to use." And it's not hard to use. I just can't remember the combination of button presses. It does sound, everything Jam makes sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, let's get into the questions. Whit Anderson. Hello, Whit. He says, from Whit.
From who?
The delay show was great. I find the amount of delay and reverb I like when I am playing with myself, smiley face, is far less than when than I'm with the band. Do you have a rule of thumb, or do you go all in?
That's a great question.
Much love from Woo.
Yeah. So there's a...
Look at these nice mugs, Dan.
They're really
Imagine
lovely.
if these nice dipped ceramic mugs, sort of almost like earthenware. I would say a significant step up from your average ceramic mug.
Yeah, definitely.
And these t-shirts, just imagine if they were available right now in that pedal show store.
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Could you imagine it? Could you even imagine it?
You could. I wonder if we wish hard enough if we could make dreams come true.
Let's try.
You know what I really like about the mugs?
Yeah.
This, having a mug like this, lets everyone else know that you're awesome. But when you're having your coffee in the morning and you're like this,
You just keep it to yourself.
it's reminding to yourself
Yeah.
that you're awesome.
I like that.
It's really great.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah. It's like dual purpose.
Yeah.
Like one of those reversible coats you can get.
Great. Really great.
Anyway, yes, Whit. Sorry, Dan was just about to say something about delay wet levels, playing with oneself and with others.
Yeah. There's a thing in the live mix that you can, it does feel like you can have a lot more delay and reverb when the guitar's in the mix. It's definitely something that I've experienced. How about you? Have you experienced that?
Yeah. It's so funny because if you listen to a nicely produced record, even quite dense mixes can be absolutely sopping, as it were, in delay and reverb. And that's because the parts are really well considered. It's sitting in its own sonic space. You know, you're not playing exactly the same thing as the other guitar player, therefore it's not all crashing into one another. So I think it's entirely context dependent.
That's very good.
And of course it will get, the perception will be that it is lost because when you're playing on your own, there's only you. So you can hear everything. But when you're playing with other people, obviously, there's lots of other noise. so many people, when we do shows on delay and reverb and stuff, and we bang on about how brilliant it is, inevitably you'll get a comment or 60 that say, well, you'll never hear it in a mix. And it's just cobblers. If you play with that sound, turn it off.
Yeah.
Then you'll hear it.
Yeah.
Then you'll hear that it's not there. So, you know, at one end, maybe you've got somebody like The Edge, or indeed The Edge, keeping that whole band together with rhythmic delays. Extremely important. And then at the other end, maybe you've just got some ethereal, pitch modulated, clever reverb just holding a bed that you couldn't really necessarily pick out, but is there nonetheless. So all about context, I think.
Yep.
What did I do? Saturday night, so I had reverb in the 2-rock and I used a deluxe reverb, wet dry. Plenty of reverb dialed into both. And then I had a delay, Future Factory delay, which I used. Not much room on the board, right? This is the board I took on Saturday night. So that is juggler doing most of the gain, DCX boost adding more gain.
Lovely.
Delay from the Future Factory and Harmonious Monk, obviously. We did a couple songs that need chorus.
Right.
So I programmed the chorus into this.
Nice. Very
and
good.
used a delay made chorus.
Beautiful.
Which worked really great. Anyway, and then there was a few songs like we did Van Morrison, Have I Told You Lately, a couple of other slow ballad,
Right.
and just let them sit with a bit of modulation. If you hold a chord and they just sit and repeat, because there's space to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's all about context, I reckon.
Nice.
But one tip is if you are struggling with it, think about if your device enables you to have an expression pedal to control the effect level, it's really useful in a live environment.
Yeah.
Because you can just ease back or have more without having to bend down and mess about. And if you're not singing, you've got nothing else to worry about, so it's easy enough.
Yeah. Nice. Ed wants to know what's on top of the 2-rock.
Ah, yes. Okay, so the aforementioned Joe Halliday brought this in, and he's leaving it with us.
Check this out. It's amazing.
It's a Selmer tape delay.
Original Croc Skin. Not real Croc, it's just the model. Well, I don't think it's real Croc. There you go. There's all your knoblets.
No, I'm clearly never going to get all that back in there, but there we go. Yeah. Oh, look at this.
You gotta look. But there's a thing at the front. Open the front so you can see.
All those little, you can't really see, you can't get the light in there, but there's a load of
Good stuff.
turn
Turn around, open the front.
Oh, you can open the front, can you?
Yeah, it's just flicks open. That's it. Look at that. Look at that. Looks a bit like a copycat. It's so... No, hang on, let me just...
Yeah, let's try that.
Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous.
So 4 heads in there. 5 heads. 4 heads. Yeah, there you go. You'll be hearing that on the show soon.
G-Bar says, Selma is amazing. Holy cow, Joe. Yeah, it's a really, really great thing. George Scully says, surely Dan should be able to identify Croc Skin. What are they teaching in Australian schools otherwise?
That's not a knife. Oh God, we need to hurry up. Right, let's hurry up.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a bit demob happy. I woke up with no stress this morning.
Oh, lovely.
After there were six things happened last
6
week.
brutal days.
Six events happened.
Yeah.
And I was going, right, 1 down, 5 to go, 3 maths. Joe Halliday. Joe, thanks again for your generosity, buddy. That's very kind. Joe says, thank you for the hospitality and the most amazing experience day.
Oh,
The whole TPS family made me feel right at home. I met some amazing people whom I hope I'll keep in touch with for years to come. It's truly inspirational to see what you guys have built.
thank you, bud.
Thank you, mate. It was wonderful having you here.
Yeah, it really was. It was very cool to finally meet you,
And your kindness with giving everyone a pedal was
just
like,
amazing.
There was just drop jaws everywhere. So
Yeah.
cheers, buddy.
I posted a picture of the pedal that Joe built me on
Oh,
Instagram.
I saw. Yeah.
And it
Have you
was
looked
so
inside it?
touching. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I had to when I was. So what happens in an experience day? We have a group of 6 people, and a bunch of stuff happens. They get to play loud amps, and we get to pull all the effects out and have a play. And in the afternoon, we split into 2 groups of 3, and I'll do pedal boards with one group, and Mick will be in here with another group, and going into more detail with certain things. And I had to show everyone that's in there with me doing pedal boards how to take the back off the pedal Joe had built, just to show people how he builds the pedals and the components and stuff he finds. It's amazing.
It is not.
Yeah.
A very different. It's a very different way of doing things than the kind of modern super high volume builders. High volume, as in many numbers.
Yep.
Joe sources all these components in basically handfuls from around the place.
Yeah.
A handful of this there, handful of that there.
And works out what he can make.
A small box of this
Yep.
there. Yeah. It's really cool.
If you see any Navy vessels drifting aimlessly at sea, it's because Joe's had all the components from the navigation.
Yeah. And Joe also says, Mick, I shall email you a diagram to show where to solder that wire that I messed up on your TSO 808. I forgot prior to leaving on Friday. Yes, Joe's also built me an SRV mod tube screamer, but it had a little whistle in it, which he now knows what it is. Are 2 amps louder than 1, says Colin Diamond. 76 trombones are definitely louder than 1. If I have 2 identical 10 watt amps, is it louder than one 20 watt amp? I'm going to say yes.
So
Perceived volume.
Yeah, it's double the power, which will give you an extra 3 dB of headroom. But yeah, two 10 watt amps. I'd much rather have, personally, 2 10 watt amps than a 20 watt.
I think you get into psychoacoustics as well, because whatever the maths say is one thing. The way we perceive frequencies at different, points on the frequency spectrum is very different. So, we had this in the experience day where the dB meter isn't really telling anyone anything, and yet they're going, wow, that sounds really loud. That doesn't sound loud, predominantly because the bottom end creates quite a lot of dBs, but you don't feel it in the same way you do 2K, which hits you right between the eyes. So and of course it depends on the amp. Dan has got a 1959 Vox AC10.
Mm-hmm. Yep, AC10 twin.
And that thing will leave a 100 watt katana in the dust.
It's mad. It's so mad.
Yeah. With the right speaker.
Yeah.
So I've never really understood how that happens, other than perception of different frequencies as they hit you, as it were.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So are 2 10 watt amps louder than one 20 watt amp? Maybe, depending on the speaker. Are they better than one 20 watt amp? Yes. Because we're all about better and worse on this show. And of course, and you can run them wet dry as well, Colin. So you'll love that.
Yep.
Ran's there. Hello, Ran.
G'day,
He says
mate.
D and M and B and K and H and R. Thank you for your inclusion. He says, happy summer from sweltering Israel. So assuming a friend already owns a Mercury 7 and a Night Sky, would you recommend splurging on a CXM 1978?
I have to say yes. So, the CXM And the Night Sky and the Mercury 7, they're amazing. The Mercury 7 is really wonderful.
Spectacularly good.
The CXM has them both on sound quality, just there's an edge there. But when it comes to functionality,
Yeah.
and being able to look down at the gig, because here's the thing, if you use multiple reverb sounds, being able to look down and see exactly what's going on, it's a game changer. But I cannot, once you hear it, you can't get away from it. You can't unhear that thing.
We've had a few people come in here and go, oh, I've seen this, is it just like any other reverb pedal? And I always say, well, do you want to hear it? They're like, yeah. I was like, you sure you want to hear it?
Yeah.
And to a person, they've gone away and bought one.
Yeah. Sort of going, I wish I hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
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 It is an astonishing thing.
Yeah. It also, all of those things actually work pretty well as outboard as well. But it's so hard to justify that spend on a guitar pedal. But if you do any recording or, any other audio work, it's fully at home in that environment as well. So
yeah.
Sorry, Ram, it's not good news, is it? Raf Freitas. Hi, DNM. 2 Qs. Number 1, what headphones do you use when you mix the show? I use Bear Dynamic DT880 Pros, I think they are.
Now, they're passive, right? And they're open back.
Yeah.
So there's no active sound cancellation. They're passive and they're open back. So if Mix is mixing something, I walk in, I can hear very vaguely, can hear stuff coming out the earphones. And why is that important, the open back thing?
It is said that if you enclose the headphone in a hard case, then you get really good bass response. And if you listen to something like Beats or, like a modern consumer headphone, then you get loads of bass and it's really tight and solid and it sounds impressive and fun. They don't sound impressive or fun. When I first got them, it took me a minute to get used to them.
Right. Those are really flat.
Yeah, and they're not super posh. We've got friends who spend literally thousands on a set of headphones.
Yeah.
But it's less about the headphone itself. Anyway, sorry, just to finish that point, the open back apparently just lets it move a little bit more, and it's a more natural presentation. Apparently, I don't understand that, but I find them less fatiguing to use, so I can have them on almost all day. Whereas the other ones just, are you gearing something to sound flat and true, which is itself comedy, but neutral for want of a better word, or are you EQing them and designing them to sound exciting and engaging and impressive? Because you don't really want that in an audio environment when you're working on audio. So I don't know that they're good, bad, or otherwise. But the thing is, a bit like monitor speakers, you put the hours into getting to know them,
right?
And then that's what's valuable, and you get used to it.
Yeah.
So I like them. I got 2 pairs of them, and they're just familiar, and like I say, you get to know them. Not fatiguing. They are higher impedance than your standard consumer headphone as well, so they need to be driven a bit harder.
Okay.
So like a modern standard consumer headphone will be like 50 or 80 ohms, I think.
Right.
And they're like 250, something like that. So
Sure.
you do need to hit them with something. That's why headphone amps exist, as far as I'm aware.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So I like them very much, and I do the vast majority of mixing in headphones because we don't have an environment that's treated I've got some nice Genelecs, but the room is not fully treated. And I do double check on the Genelecs because they sound different again, and I know them pretty well. But most people listen in headphones, and I kind of know what I'm listening to in headphones. So that's the ones I use. There's so many fantastic headphones out there, but I use 880 Pros for mixing and 770s I think they are for tracking, which are the closed back ones.
Right.
And in a wet dry rig with a good amp and a Met amp, which is I guess kind of what is the reality for most people, if you've got a great amp and a not so great amp, which way round do you put them? Do you make the great amp the wet amp, or do you make that the dry amp?
It depends on what the great amp is great at, and what the Met amp is Met at. Like, if you've got I don't know, a 5-watt solid state PV, well, it's not an awesome big clean pedal platform, but it'll have a nice attack on the front of the note, be perfect as the dry amp.
Yeah.
And then you if the great amp's got lots of headroom and really good for the effects, then you stick all your clean stuff in that. Alternatively, if the amp that you might classify as is a, I don't know, not what I'd ever call a Hot Rod Deluxe Mad, but it's a not even vanilla, but it's really good, right? But that might be great as, it could do either. You might have an amazing little 1-watt valve thing that you want to use as your dry amp, and use up Hot Rod Deluxe or something similar for the wet amp. It just depends on what the great amp is great at doing.
Yeah. I would always just use the higher headroom amp as the wet amp.
Yeah, always.
Regardless of...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yes, lots of people coming in with their headphone suggestions. Yeah, it's such a personal thing, like monitor speakers, like guitars, just what you're used to.
Did you ever get to listen to the headphones Paul Stacey uses?
Yeah.
It's scary.
Those are the ones that cost many thousands.
Yeah.
They're
amazing.
Yes. Hot Rod Deluxe, the Honda Civic of guitar amps, says Chris Sorensen. Interestingly, though, so the other thing Dan and I did this week, on Monday night, Bonham's Auctioneers in London auctioned off...
that was fun. That's why we didn't have VCQ last week. We were at a Peter Green auction house thing.
Yeah, they auctioned off a bunch of the guitars still owned by the Peter Green estate. And by complete fluke, Paul Stacey was playing... He'd put some musicians together to play some Fleetwood Mac, and he asked me if I wanted to play a tune, to which I replied, yes I do, can it be Oh Well? And he said it can, because you're the first person to reply. So we did Oh Well, and I took a little board, so I used the Page Overdrive, the little Fairfield Circuitry Model B, and a slapback delay. And then I had to put another pedal on because Neville also used my board and he wanted an extra reverb. So anyway, that into a Hot Rod Deluxe, and that sounded better than my wet dry 2-rock and deluxe reverb rig on Saturday night.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I did the classic thing on Saturday night. I set the PA up, I set the monitors up.
You got everything going, and then you thought, I better set my guitar.
I'm keeping everyone happy. Yeah. I'm the front man. I'm keeping the audience happy. I'm doing all the singing. So because the guitar is what I do, I don't worry about that. Set that up right at the last minute.
Right.
And I just couldn't
dial it in.
I couldn't get that age-old problem that we talk about all the time. The balance of the right amount of overdrive with the right amount of volume. Yeah. And it wasn't bad, but the sound on Monday night was palpably better using a flipping Hot Rod Deluxe. than my fancy ass 2-Rock, and that is not the amp's fault. That's my fault. So, yeah, I'll stand up to the Hot Rod Deluxe and forever.
Oh, it's amazing.
This.
Chris Turner says, I just got home from work. They are some snazzy t-shirts, guys. Yes, if you're
That
just
Pedal Show
joining
store.
us. Yes, that Pedal Show store. Some new t-shirts. Schwangtastic.
Anyway, sorry. God, we're never going to get finished, are we? Harrison, hello. Nice to hear from you, Harrison. Harrison
G'day,
Vaughan.
mate.
He says, no question today, just enjoying the show. Hope everyone is doing well.
Lovely.
Yes, we've had some blessed rain, which is good. One of the things about middle age is you start to get happy when it starts raining.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, he doesn't. He's Australian, but for one day. After one day, it's like, it's too much rain.
Okay.
The garden likes it, Dan.
It does. The garden does like
the
it.
crops and the fields like it. The animals like it. The birds like it. Jacob or Jakob. Sorry, you've probably corrected us on that before, Jacob or Jakob. Bakker. He says, Hola, legends. I've been playing some weddings lately.
Cool.
Wanted to bring the board, but struggled to keep things carryable. Also, I need to be able to sing and be loud enough outdoors. What would you guys take?
Well, I would take everything. See, what I guess because we both sing, one of the things with having, we both use switches, and one of the great things about that is you're not tap dancing trying to get sounds up while you're singing. Is a nightmare. So that's a handy thing. But I guess it depends on. Now, if you're playing outdoors and you need to be heard, the most important thing is an amp. Is an amp that you will be able to be heard with. As soon as you get into an outdoor environment and there are no reflections, it's astonishing how quiet a 30-watt amp can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we so on Saturday night, Paddy had a loud Fender bass, a portable, like one of those 800-watt Fender bass amps through the 212 barefaced. Jack was using, I've got a Bose L1 system, which I won in a competition, weirdly. And he was using that as a keyboard amp, and he didn't want to go through the PA.
Okay.
And
nice.
it dispersed it beautifully.
Wow.
I had the 2-Rock and the Deluxe. The Deluxe was at its place that it likes, 4.5, and the 2-Rock was happy. So we were pretty loud for a garden party.
Yeah.
Because it's in a tent outside, sounded great.
Yeah.
It sounded killer.
Yeah.
Singing-wise, Dan and I have absolutely no sense of humour when it comes to PAs. So I always take something well overpowered.
Yeah.
We've got two EV, I don't know what they are, 800 watts or 1,000 watts or something. And similarly, portability, I've got no humour about that either. It's like, get a bigger car or a van. Because I just...
Yeah. But,
once you pare it down, you can't be heard.
Yeah. There are places where compromise makes sense, but the portability thing. I mean, it's got to be practical. You've got to be able to lift the thing. But like, I've never complained about taking a 412 or 2 amps to a gig.
No.
All these gigs I've done with Doug over the years, he turns up to a rehearsal with a full kit and he takes it in, he sets it up, stuff. I'm like, no matter what rig I bring, it's always easier for me to set up than the drummer.
Yeah. That said, the aforementioned Hot Rod Deluxe will get you heard anywhere.
Yeah, Hot Rod Deluxe is brilliant.
And again, if you are in a volume compromised environment, something like a Blues Junior will, it's getting the vocals loud enough and clear enough, which is a challenge. But then, modern technology, these Class D amps now, you can get 1,000 watts out of something pretty compact. Doesn't mean it's going to sound any good, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And then do you want to climb the vertical curve of good sounding PA?
Yeah, right.
because it is literally vertical.
Yeah.
It's like, this sounds okay, and it costs 800 quid. I want it to sound good. Okay, let's just add a naught, shall we?
Yeah, right.
And it's literally that.
Yeah.
It's depressing. It's like camera gear.
Trio Life says, limit wedding gig to 2 flanges. I concur. Very nice.
Yeah. But you can't, so that tiny board there is, all right, it's a Schmidt array, which is insane money, but for the Peter Green thing, I originally had it on a pedal train nano because I only need 3 pedals.
Yeah.
And that was totally fine.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry if I am, when it comes to singing, I'm totally sense of humourless because you've got to be able to hear yourself and they've got to be able to hear you. So I travel with my own monitor as well, always, which is another big, heavy box.
Right.
Because I cannot not hear myself.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'm done by the 6th song because I start shouting.
Sure.
So, that said, I've done plenty of gigs with the aforementioned Bose L1, which is also very expensive, but you can pick them up used. And if you stick that behind you in a wedding gig or a small, like a function gig, the sound dispersal on those things is amazing.
Oh, the line array stuff.
Yeah, it's like 7 feet tall and
Okay.
it's got a bass bin with it.
Right.
And it's only that wide.
Okay.
And I wouldn't call that PA, but it's definitely sound reinforcement.
Right.
So if you're singing with acoustic guitar or electric guitar and it's not too loud, that's a great thing. And there's plenty of other solutions from people like LD Systems. I rather suspect that various Me Too brands, Behringer, Thoman's Me Too brand, probably do something similar.
Sure.
For much less money. And that can work as well. But, don't get me started on PA. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy the gigs, Jacob. The other thing I always take wherever I go is a AER Compact 60. And if it's a really small room, vocals and guitar, acoustic guitar into that will get you heard.
That's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll need to revisit acoustic rigs.
Yeah.
Because there's some really cool things out there. Be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I played acoustic for 3 or 4 songs on Saturday night. It was nice.
Awesome.
Ben Lyons, no super chat for you, so perhaps BV has Ben Lyons, yes. Hello, Ben. He says, I'm considering selling my Bad Cat Cub for the PRS HDRX20 as I spend my whole time using pedals to make a Marshall type of sound. Should I pull the trigger? Also, why don't I see many Bad Cat amps? I don't know the Bad Cat Cub very well, so I'm just going to Google that.
It's a Cub. Is it Cub 30?
30 watt valve amp.
Yeah, so a friend of mine had one of these and they're really terrific sounding things.
Come on, tell me what tubes it's got. The reason you don't see many Bad Cats is because they've been through a couple changes of ownerships over the years, and that has made it, in the UK at least, and perhaps Europe, I don't know, I can't speak for Europe, will have made it a bit of a punt for a dealer to take them on.
Okay.
And sometimes when those relationships change, they've got to jump back in and take a bit of a leap of faith. Bad Cat is now under new ownership, very stable new ownership. In fact, an old compadre of mine from years ago now works for them, who used to work, he worked for the longest time for Mesa Boogie, and is a very serious dude. So the fact he is working there probably says that they are extremely serious about what they're doing.
Right. So
hopefully we'll see more Bad Cat stuff happening. Yeah, well, the thing is, right, you've got cathode bias AB 2EL34s. I can't really see that the HDRX20 is going to offer you a significant improvement or change over that. if we were looking at an EL84 amp in the cub,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe,
Yeah.
bearing in mind it's not just about the output tubes, but it's an indication of what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you're going to notice, without actually hearing them, I don't know that you're going to notice much of a difference there. The HDRX20 is, if you've ever played a Plexi Marshall, it will seem relatively familiar to you. You know,
Sure.
bright, aggressive sounding.
So there's a brashness to it, which is
Yeah.
what you want in that for that tone.
But if by Marshall tone you mean kind of thicker distortion, fuller, you know, what happens when you crank a Marshall up, then no, the HDRX won't do that unless you crank it up, which might not be possible. And for sure, it is a master volume design, so you can get the channels going and overdriving, but really, unless that master is open,
Yeah.
it's not the same thing.
No.
So you might just be better off figuring out some really nice sounding pedals to get it done. One we played recently, which we really loved, was the new Takalis
Oh yeah.
Room 40. This is excellent.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Yeah, they've knocking it out of the park at the moment, Carlos.
There are a lot of brilliant Marshall in a box pedals out there. We really like this and would recommend it unreservedly, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a new amp.
Really
so
good.
maybe give that a go. Yeah. Rhino Jam, thank you for your generosity. Rhino Jam says the flew round trip US back to Oz recently. TPS deep cuts the whole way.
Oh, brilliant.
Loved it. I have a 2-rock CRS classic reverb signature, and I'm trying to work out the right volume for the effects loop using an Empress buffer with wet in the buffer loop, but it sounds tinny. Tips and tricks.
Tricky.
Okay, use a longer cable. Start there. Because one of the issues about adding a buffer into an effects loop is that it... Oh, God.
Buffer's just going to drive that note.
It's such a horrific compromise using effects loops.
It depends on the effects loop.
I don't like I reluctantly use the loop in my CRS
Right.
for one specific job and the number of problems it causes.
Sure.
Now, if you talk to Eli or talk to 2Rock, they'll tell you exactly how to sort it out, and it will probably involve buying the Eli, which is their tube buffered effects loop, basically like the old Dumbleator.
Right.
TS1's got it built in, basically, or a stripped down version of it built in, and that is much better because it's buffered on the send and the return.
Okay.
But it's just about matching up what's hitting the front of what's coming out of the loop and going through your pedals, and then how it's being recovered. So it might be that you're better off buffering from the send and doing that, or it might be you're better off buffering at the return, because that has a massive difference. So try that for the first option. When I use mine, we use it in the ridiculous wet dry wet rig. I do all the gain pedals go into the front of the CRS, out the effects loop, which then hits the wet board. It's 2 separate pedal boards, and on the wet board is all the crazy reverbs and delays and stuff. What I find is having I use a Kingsley Juggler version 3, which is a valve overdrive and all preamp. And by having that just switched on in the clean channel, that's enough buffer for the whole thing. Don't need any more buffering.
Yeah.
And that takes care of all of it, and it sounds pretty good doing that. So it might be that, you know, something like a Klon type usually has a really, really acceptable sounding buffer. Yeah. I don't know do you know the Empress Buffer Plus? Do you know what that is?
No. I'll have a look.
But it's, yeah. Yeah. So my assumption is then that you're using the CRS for overdrive, are you? And if you are not, just don't bother with the effects loop. Just shove everything in the front. If you've got relatively clean sound from the amp itself, you know, it might be overdriving a little bit, just shove everything in the front. That's how I use mine and how I love it the most. Yeah. Empress Buffer Plus.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, the Empress, is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I see it's got a level control on it.
Yeah.
Just try and set it to Unity. Try and set it so when you turn it on, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Except gets brighter.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. You know that me, if you watch the show, you know that me and Dan are no fan of effects loops for that exact reason. G March, hello G. Hello,
G'day, mate.
Actually, I just want to. Joseph Brian Garcia says, Mick, you always play a tune in broken chord of F, G, and A. Does this and does some double stops. I think this is a really beautiful tune. Just want to ask if it's from an actual song. If it's that chord progression, it's in like a million songs. It's major, major, minor, isn't it? So. Is it that you mean? Or it might be, which is like a fourth up. But that chord progression of, you know, you've heard it in a million songs. As for the double stops, I'm not sure. But no, it's not a specific song. It's just a chord progression that I really like. One of the reasons I really like it is if that's your chord. So the third chord is essentially your root, the tonic, as it were. So if it was A minor, and in this case that's an A minor 11, is it? Is that an 11?
That's 11. Yep.
Yeah. And you put that one on the top as well. Don't know what that makes.
7.
Yeah, okay. Oh. Yeah, you imply the major, don't you? Oh, so maybe it's major, minor. Anyway, whatever. Using those three chords, you can play A minor pentatonic over all of that. Oh. Oh, sorry. Which greatly appeals to me. Because I don't have to think about modes or anything like that, or any other harmonic information. So that's probably what it is, if that helps. Can't hear you, Mick, says Glenn Michael Thompson. No, we don't plug in, I'm afraid, on these. Good. You all done?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm going through.
You on Instagram?
No. So I'm catching up on my correspondence. Now I'm just going through some of the things. Talking about effects loop, Gordon Rankin says effects loops are all different, and that's the biggest problem. Absolutely, because there's no consensus on how to do it. So things just need to be.
Dan launched a nice new product this week that you might want to think about. I've just realised why he sat there quiet, because he's going, for God's sake, mention the underliner.
No, not at all. I'm just going through stuff.
Check out Dan's new product, which is called the underliner, which solves a lot of the aforementioned problems I was just moaning about. Watch the video. You might find it really interestingly useful.
Thank you.
It's called Underliner, and it's a very clever device that basically gives you 2 extra master volumes in your effects loop, but also solves the buffering problem. or at least gives a consistent solution to the buffering problem.
Yeah.
And it's foot switchable, and it's MIDI controllable,
All the stuff.
and it looks really nice. And if you watch the video, genuinely, the overdrive sounds in that come from a Hot Rod Deluxe and a Les Paul. No pedals
Yeah, it's great.
for the overdrive sounds. It sounds killer.
Yeah, wonderful.
G Barge, dear friends. Hello, G.
G'day, G.
New guitar day. While chatting in his shop, my wonderful friend Larry Cragg offered his personal guild a pristine, now golden blonde bird's eye beauty from 1970.
Wow.
On which he'd done considerable work. Well, congratulations.
Amazing.
Very
Those
nice.
old guilds are stunning instruments.
Yeah.
I remember when I was studying, one of the other jazz students there had an old guild jazz guitar, and it was just epic thing.
Was it Newark Street? Is that where they were, or something like that? Because they were in New York area, weren't they?
Right.
In the golden days, I think. I think I'm right in saying. And he says, part 2, Larry is a gem. Larry Cragg is a gem and has changed my musical life. You two have as well. Thanks, G. In different ways. I hope you can feel the multiple reflections of the goodwill you share in the musical world. Love to you both.
Oh, thank you, mate.
That's kind of you to say, G. It's this community, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this community, and there is such a lot of good energy that comes out of this community as a whole, all of us.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
It's Dan and I never, when we started doing the show, we never couldn't even imagine like something like that could be possible, let alone actually happen. And here it is happening, and we see it and we feel it all the time. So
yeah. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, G. It's nice. You know, one could be tempted to say, especially when there's so much crap going on in the world.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a lovely water bottle there.
It's nice. Yeah, imagine if you could buy one of these in that pedal show store. It would be good, wouldn't it?
It would be great.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could.
Imagine if it matched my shoes.
If it matched your shoes.
Actually, the pedal that Joe built for me, where is it? He actually put a picture of my shoes on them. I don't think Nike's lawyers have seen it yet, but.
That letter's coming.
Yeah. So G, we'll take the love and we will reflect it back out to everyone watching. With massive thanks for being here. Carl Longbottom.
G'day, mate.
Nice to hear from you, Carl. He says, evening, gents. Recommendations for an octave or pitch pedal for bass sounds. I currently have a Walrus Lumina, but I find it more church organ than bass.
It's an interesting thing, right? Because you're inevitably, a lot of those things end up sounding synthetic, and they actually do a really good organ sound, pogs and whatnot. One of the best is a whammy, going an octave down on a whammy. That's the Seven Nation Army bass sound. From what I'm told, is the octave down on a whammy. I'm not sure if I quite believe it, but yeah, I've seen guitar players use that to set up loops and stuff. The other one that I really like is the micro pog, not the. There's a tiny mini pog, but the micro pog's the one with 3 knobs on it, where you've got your direct, level, octave lower, and an octave higher. And the octave lower on that one is fantastic. It tracks really well.
Yeah, there must be some just straight pitch shifters out there, aren't there?
There are, but
the sub and up, does that do that?
Yeah, and the sub and up, sub and up's great. I guess
TC Electronic
and the
Boss OC6,
the Pog, yeah, and a lot of those can sound really good. I guess my thing is a lot of them. There's a synthetic edge to them. There's a lot of top end in that sound. So, I mean, all the Boss OC ones sound really good.
The earlier analog ones don't track too well, do they?
No.
But the later digital ones, I think, track a bit better.
Yeah.
I had the original big box Pog, and that was flipping brilliant.
Oh, they're amazing.
With the
all the sliders.
yeah. Check out the TC Electronics sub and up, Carl. Just if that does an octave down, I can remember that. I remember Dan and I being pretty impressed with that.
Yeah.
And TC Electronic always sounds good, always is affordable.
Yeah.
So can be trusted in that regard. And hopefully people in the comments are suggesting things as well. Todd Roy says, Dan, can I use the underliner as a speaker attenuator?
Very good. No, always the same. No.
Chris from Coborg wants to know, what guitar is that?
Yeah, this is a Nick Huber Crowster 2. And a very beautiful thing it is as well. Had this for many years, and it's just really lovely. There you go. Check this out. Look at that. Nick knows how to make a guitar.
It weighs next to nothing.
Yeah.
Easily the lightest electric guitar here, including your Junior.
Yep.
Made out of Spanish cedar, which is a bit like mahogany. Body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. I've worked with several luthiers stroke guitar techs, says Omega Zero, who are supposed to be pros, but it hasn't gone well. How do you find a Johnny or a Matt?
That's a great question. How do you find... So recommendations really is the only way to go. I found Johnny through Dave Gregory. And, you know, Dave's guitars are akin to his children. And he said, look, Johnny's the only guy I would use, the only guy I'll let touch his guitars. Except for now, he also allows Matt.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
There are a lot of good people out there.
There are a lot of good people out there, yeah.
But like you say, you've got to find them, and you've got to be prepared to pay them as well. That's the other side of that coin. But yeah, I guess the way you find them is you talk to people and you say, who fixes your guitars for you? And pretty soon you get organised about it in order to fit into their window of availability. But yeah, there's no better recommendation than asking people who they use and whether they've had good results.
Yeah.
The other thing to say, and this might link into your next question, is it's about having realistic expectations of what can be done as well. Every guitar tech I know tells the story of the person who keeps coming back wanting their action lower and the guitar easier to play and moaning about fret buzz.
Yeah. Okay.
Every guitar tech I know tells that story.
Right.
And there are certain physical limitations with what can be done. Yeah, so expectations are important. And your next question, when do you give up on a guitar that seems to just need a good setup, but somehow no one can fix it?
Look, that's a great question. I
want to save my sitar Strat, but how much buzz do you consider normal, acceptable? Now, when you say...
the sitar is all about the buzz.
Well, if you actually mean a guitar that's supposed to sound like a sitar, then it is all about the buzz. If you mean it's a Strat that does
sound like a sitar,
does sound like a sitar, then that's a different thing. How much buzz is acceptable?
That's a really interesting question. If I get buzz acoustically, it just kills sustain. So I'm not a fan of buzz at all. But I don't know. I have played guitars that seem to buzz, but plugged in they sounded fine.
Nev's guitars all buzz like hell.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't mind it at all acoustically.
Wow.
It is part of the sound of the electric guitar. As soon as you start listening for it, then you hear it and it'll drive you insane. Got a bit of a rattle there. Did that on Saturday night.
Did you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's buzzers all over this thing.
Yeah, but see that doesn't sound like the buzz that I'm thinking of when I hear it, when I think of things fretting out and.
I picked this one up because this is the guitar I have with the lowest action.
Right.
I think because this winds down. Every time I hire it up, it seems to wind down.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, any good guitar tech should be able to give you a realistic. This one buzzes a lot. Will give you a realistic view of what's possible for that guitar.
Right.
I lent this guitar to Charlie Allen for a video shoot, and it came back in E flat with what feel like 9s on it, but I guess they're 10s.
Okay.
Feels like really slinky.
Right.
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe I've just been playing a lot, and they are actually my strings. Yeah, I don't know. One person's buzz, one person's acceptable buzz is another person's deafening roar.
Nice.
But I think perhaps the two things are linked. Find someone who you trust, and I appreciate that's easier said than done, and accept their advice.
Yeah.
So they might say, if you want this guitar to play brilliantly well, it needs a refret and a new nut.
Yeah, the nut's a big deal, but also, I remember staying at your house, and Ainsley stayed over, and he had a, what's the plural of vintage Stratocaster awesomeness?
An embarrassment.
And he had an embarrassment of vintage Strats on the table downstairs, and I picked up the one that you eventually bought, and the action was like really serious. And I found myself so free on that high action, because without that buzz, you're playing, you have to genuinely, purposefully play notes. There's no just having your fingers flapping around on the fretboard and just noodling aimlessly. It's like, all right, this is well, if I want to play this note, I'm going to have to commit to playing that note. And when you do, it's like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's like, when I hear Ainsley play, that is how he plays.
Yeah.
Everything is a commitment. And it's like, so after that, I raised the action on all my guitars. And
Yeah.
it didn't help at all. But
So let's see. Play Till It Hurts. Tillit, T-I-L-I-T, Hurts, H-E-R-T-E-Z. Play Till It Hurts echoes your comment down and says, buzz can be down to plucking too hard.
right.
So if you do attack the guitar like you do and like Ainsley does, then a low action's just not going to work.
Sure.
But if you play, I don't know what Julian Lage's action is like, for
that'd be
example, but
interesting.
he plays so light. I don't know what Noel's, actually we do know what Noel's action was like, not high. He
Right.
plays super soft.
Yeah.
And so you're right that actually maybe some of that buzz can be mitigated by playing, not attacking the guitar so hard, and the harder you hit it, the more
Yeah.
those strings are going to flap and the more buzz you're going to get. Tim Lurch, surprise, surprise, hits us with the wisdom. Hello, Tim. And he says, the sitar sound is the saddles, not the frets. And he's absolutely right. If you've ever seen a sitar, it was the Coral sitar, wasn't it? It was the famous one that you hear on loads of 60s records.
Right.
It's basically that. It's another bar that's just touching the strings
Right.
at the bridge end. That's how they create the sitar sound,
Okay.
I think. So check your saddles. Check they're not all flapping about the place, and that certainly if you've got, I don't know, cast saddles that have got deep grooves in them. It could be that there's not
Yeah.
a nice clean point of contact over the saddle, so swap them out for some titanium or steel or something that's nice and hard and a consistent surface. That will stop that sitaring effect, or at least could be one of many things that could mitigate. The nut too. I had a Sitari High E on a Strat once, just before doing a clinic, and thankfully it was at a guitar shop, and the guitar repairer there said, "Look, this is your problem, mate," and fixed it. No more sitaring. So
Sure.
yeah, nut, saddles, all of it.
Yep.
Reiterate what we said before. Try and find someone who you can trust and accept their advice.
Yeah.
That's
One last thing, when I some wisdom laid on me by Johnny Kincaid, all about the relief in the neck. And when he's doing a guitar, he'll be really brutal on the fret, sort of past the 15th fret, and he calls it the kick up area. Actually, if you think about the way that the way the neck bends when it gets some relief in it, and how it's stationary here, and the sort of angle that causes when you get up here. So he will purposefully really attack these frets here, and then, like when you play a guitar after it's been set up by Johnny, it's just magic up there. Yeah.
They used to call it fishtail, didn't they? Certainly with acoustics, they'd sometimes do that. And and if you look at certain archtop guitars and acoustics, you'll physically see the fingerboard go off up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so hopefully you won't need to give up on your guitar Omega Zero. You can make it good again. Joe Leonard, hi to DM and KNR.
Hi, Joe.
Just wanted to say thank you all once again for an excellent day on Friday. I shall spend the next 10 years applying what I learned, and also a massive thank you to Joe Halliday. What a legend.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice one, Joe. Joe's from Bristol, and he's actually got a Hiwatt Custom 50, which we are going to borrow.
Awesome.
At some point.
Yeah. No, just lovely meeting you,
great to
Joe.
meet you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much, buddy.
Mike2203. Hello, Mike, who has also been to an experience day. He says, hi, D and M and KNR. And we'll add a B into that as well. He says, on a G3 with wet dry, is a splitter always necessary to stop hum, and where does it go? What about wet, dry, wet?
No, because the second output, so if you're just going wet dry, the second output is already isolated, so you don't need.
Yeah.
But if you're going wet dry wet, so you need 3 outputs. Remember, you only ever want one path to earth / ground. So one of the outputs from G3 is isolated, so you'd put a splitter in there with an isolated output at the point that you want your dry amplifier, and then leave the 2 outputs to do your stereo stuff. So if you want 3 amplifiers, you will need a splitter that has an isolated output.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that normal signal path 1 amp, each additional amplifier requires isolation and phase reversal possibility?
Yes.
Every single subsequent.
Absolutely.
But that's not required from G3 because it's got it built in for the second output.
Correct.
Yeah. So you've essentially got a humdinger built into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Hope that makes sense, Mike. The Great Dell. I use the Posh dB meters at work to see what my office amp will get to. It's a Marshall 2210 with a 4x12 and G12 H100s. That's a speaker. It says 124 dB flat out. 122 with the volume at 2 o'clock. That's flipping Harrier jump jet territory, isn't it?
That's wow.
Most fun I've had in work at a while. Yeah, we've never been over 120 in here, I don't think. Mind you, it would be interesting to put them actually in front of the amps and see what happened.
Yeah, there you go.
But, I mean, that's an Amazon special. I don't think there's anything particularly accurate about that. Nice one. That's really cool. The Great Dell. Sean, I'm going to correct your phonetic spelling of your name earlier. Apparently it is a hard G.
Sijuyon.
I can't even find it. He says Jar o Milatos, so I think it's Gara Milatos. Gara Milatos.
All right.
Which is that fish flavoured stuff you dip your tortilla chips in, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Terra Masalata, is that what that's called? Do you ever have that?
Terra Masalata?
Yeah, we don't have it. Catherine doesn't eat fish, so we just have huge mouse. Mick, you all... he says, Sean says, Mick, you almost got it the first time, which is unusual. I'm the happy new owner of a Thorpe camouflage.
Oh, nice.
The treble control is everything. Thank you.
Totally. What an awesome thing it is.
Yeah. It's so funny with those analog modulations. I learned this from Dan because he loves it so much, is having that really present high end in those sounds, which is only available in the analog world, because in the digital world it just gets crushed and nasty, which I think is why a lot of digital modulations sound dark.
Right.
Because it just doesn't work for those frequencies. It just sounds crushed and compressed. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'm yet to hear anything that comes close to the Mistress or an old MP1 phaser or an old, I pulled out the Phase 90, and it's just it's such a stupidly simple thing. But you turn it on, it's like, that's the sound, and it just feels so good to play. And it's like, yeah. The modulation, the digital modulation is really hard because the delay times are so short to get, and trying to get that right. I don't know. It's really hard.
I think it's about the filtering as well. You've got to cut it off somewhere.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that in the analog spectrum, or at least it doesn't happen in the same way.
Sure.
You get all the harmonics happen.
Yeah. And that's all happening just as part of the process. You know what I mean? They're not designing harmonics in. It just retains everything. But yeah.
Kevin says, does G3 do wet dry on its own? Yes. Not only that, Kevin, it does wet dry and stereo if you want. So you can have wet dry and stereo, which is pretty epic.
It's fun.
Yeah. Depending on how you configure the loops and the parallel signal paths in it, which even I understand. G Barge says, whack-a-mole, eh? Come on then, you know what to do. We've started with Huge Mouse and Whack-a-Mole, eh? Your dip-related puns will be greatly appreciated from this point forward.
That's very good. Very good.
Enjoy the camouflage, Sean. I hope you have good fun with that. Rodrigo Guaspari says, Legends, great show on Friday. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Our greetings to Brazil. The Great Del again. He says, if you could hybrid 2 amps, what would they be? I'm building a black panel Princeton Pre on a Tweed Deluxe out. Next is a Plexi Bass Pre on a JTM 45 output. Oh, I like that. So you get the front end of a 60s Fender with the back end of a 50s Fender.
That's nice.
So presumably you're talking about no negative feedback and some other things that are quite interesting.
Very nice.
About the Tweeds, some of the Tweeds. Yeah.
I'd probably go a Bassman Pre and a high watt power section. Yeah. Just be fun to hear.
Fire. I'd go... It's funny, when you think about all those classic amps, I think the reason that modern channel switching, do-it-all amps, and then whatever happened next with digital modelling is so popular and became so popular was because, obviously, sorry, this is impossibly simplistic, but I'm going to say it anyway. All of those classic amps had this much latitude.
Yep.
So if you want a Tweed Deluxe, it sounds good there.
Yeah.
That Deluxe reverb that I'm pointing at on the floor, a reissue Common or Garden Deluxe reverb, sounds good to me between 5 and 7. Below that, it's just not awake.
Right.
After that, it's caving in too much.
Sure.
That is a very specific target for one's gigs.
Yep.
The bassman sounds good on 3 to 4.
Mm.
I mean, it sounds glorious on 7, but there's no headroom. You couldn't get a clean
Yeah,
sound.
yeah.
So your modern channel switching amp comes along and it's like, well, you can have both of those things if you want. Just don't tell anyone it's horrifically compromised.
Right.
Which I've learnt at my great expense over the years.
Sure. I mean, it's a really tricky thing to do. That actually is. I was at the Roger Waters gig and going over some of the tones that Dave Kilmus is getting, and his Brunetti it's one of the best amps I've heard for an amazing clean sound and an amazing drive sound.
Yeah.
But it's such a big ask, because every section of the amp has to be voiced to do a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. I can't remember what the original question was. Oh, if you could hybrid 2 amps. So you were going to have a bassman and a
high watt.
And a high watt. Oh, it's so hard. Yeah. I just like master volume amps, so I don't really. I like non-master volume amps generally, even though the 2-Rock is a master volume amp. Yeah, I don't know. They're all compromised for me.
Right.
I think it's after a very average experience on Saturday night of my sound, despite having unbelievable gear.
Sure.
Yeah.
I bet you sounded awesome.
It sounded okay.
Well, I bet it was amazing.
It sounded okay. God, yeah.
Very good.
No question, says Aaron McConnell. Just thanks for all you do. Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks,
Aaron.
mate.
Thanks for your generosity. That's very kind of you. Sean again says, comparing Geramelatos, Terramysalata. We haven't had any good, I don't think we've had any good
dip-based puns.
Dip-based puns in. We shall try to hummus you, says Coldacre.
That's very good.
Oh God, I've lost my place now. He says, comparing the CXM 1978 and the UA Golden, what are your thoughts in terms of audio quality and features? I went UA to get spring reverb, which the CXM doesn't have, and much lower cost, but the CXM is enticing. I have an admission to make about the Golden. I just can't get past the buffer and all of that and the preamp sound, which I believe you can turn off.
Right. Yeah, I think we need to relook at those.
Yeah.
Because they go a lot deeper.
I'm a bit lazy, so what's important for me is when I plug it in, I don't have to make a decision about a bypass state or 18 internal dip switches. I want the designer to go, this is how it should be, because I don't have the capacity to choose between 18 options.
Sure.
And all the stuff. So one of the things I've been getting frustrated with recently, and this is purely personal, right? Other people are very different and are more willing to spend time, is getting the H90 to turn on and off so I can't hear it with all the effects bypassed. And that has been basically impossible.
Right.
So I don't want to turn the effects on.
Okay.
The CXM the Future Factory. All the other stuff I use, I stick it in a loop on G3 or a Quartermaster. I turn it on. I don't know it's there.
Yeah.
Maybe a slight buffer. That's all right. I know what that is. I can deal with it in my brain. On a lot of other stuff, the tonal change is so vast when you turn it on. I'm like, I don't want that.
I don't want that. But I'm a professional.
And I'm not going to spend a week trying to work out how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So for that reason, and it is a bit of laziness, I'm sorry to say, I gave up with the Golden pretty quickly. Not least that I couldn't flip and power it. I couldn't get it to turn on.
Okay.
So...
But yeah, so we should revisit them because we had the new UA effects in the show that we filmed last week and they were flipping brilliant.
Now you're talking. The Max.
Amazing.
The Delverb.
Amazing.
And what was the other one you had? We're giving Friday's show away, but anyway.
The
74.
The 74.
Tape, echo and reverb.
Amazing.
Superb.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with any one of those.
Yep.
And I don't know what's different about them. But straight out the box, plug in.
Awesome.
Complete usability, fantastic tones.
Yeah.
So it might just be that they crammed too much stuff in to the first ones to make it really attractive to a lot of people. And that just went over my head.
And I think with those first ones, because there was so much stuff in there and there wasn't any MIDI accessibility, I felt that was a bit confusing for me. Yeah, but I think we should have a revisit.
Deer Creek Audio says, why do you not cover any old Eventide stuff? Probably the most popular guitar effects ever. Firstly, because we don't own any.
The old rack stuff,
and we've got a couple of the older pedals, but not very many. Secondly, because on most of the newer pedals, no analog drive-through, which makes it unusable for me and him.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of the old larger form factor pedals. I've got the pitch factor and I've got the time factor, and they're really good. I think they're really they're really great.
You're right to say they're super popular.
Yeah. But the no analog drive-through in them, which is I can't,
Yeah, it doesn't work
deal.
without that. But you're right, certainly about the rack stuff, 90s rack stuff in particular.
Yeah, the H3000.
They were ruling, weren't they?
Yeah,
they
amazing.
Ruled.
I remember when the
but we don't own any of that stuff.
Yeah, but when Satch and Fire were releasing, it was like Passion and Warfare and was it the 7 with the Alien and the one afterward. Anyway, but the Eventide, I think it was the H3000, was all over those albums.
Yeah, well, it was groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
incredible.
Yeah. I would also say not really our area of knowledge or interest. Dan and I tend to stick to stuff that we either know a lot about or we're personally very interested in. Every time we veer outside of that, we tend to get kicked in the nuts. Which is a self-inflicted kick, by the way. So if we were ever going to do that, it would make sense to get somebody in who was super passionate about it, and then they could explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've ever watched the shows we've done on direct recording or other stuff that we just don't really want to do, we're like,
and they're valuable doing that because we get a lot of questions on them, but it's not even a comfort zone thing. We've tried this 100 times. It's something that you and I don't connect with, but let's try it again and see how far we come.
And that is just to really underline the point. That's no like end all statement on the quality or usefulness of something. It's just one personal opinion in 7 billion personal opinions. Carries no more importance than your opinion of something, but I think it's still important to say we just don't get it, like it, want it.
And that's okay.
And that's fine. Yeah. And we totally get that other people do. So they can start a YouTube channel about that if that's what they're interested in. And it's no judgment, genuinely no judgment, to be able to say, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm not a massive fan of anchovies, but I really know.
And that's not a slight on anchovies.
No, and I know people who flipping love anchovies. So it's all fine, isn't it? It's fine. At least I understand.
Don't like anchovies?
At least
me.
At least I understand that there are people who like anchovies. What sometimes pulls my chain is when people can't understand that different people like different things. I've greatly enjoyed reading the comments on the aluminium pickguard short from the Revere video.
The funniest thing is people getting apoplectically angry saying it can't make a difference when it's so flippin' audible. Well, even on the phone.
Not only is it audible, it's also physics.
Yeah.
But so if you haven't seen it, the wider context, of course, which nobody sees because they haven't watched the full video, is Rabea said one of the big surprises when they were developing the pickup set with Bare Knuckle was he noticed that his aluminium pickguard sounded quite different from his plastic pickguard when they were developing the pickup sets, and they were quite surprised by that because even though this is something Tim Mills will know, and anyone who's experienced it over the years will know, it was a surprise to Rabea, so they looked into it a bit, and we shrunk it down into a short and put it out on YouTube. And of course, vast majority of people are like, "Oh wow, I didn't really think that would be the case." And then anyone who disagrees unpleasantly, and usually with some kind of insult.
It was so funny.
And I'm fascinated by this because it's sort of, I mean, it is only a tiny proportion, and we must remember that, right? We must remember that it is just a tiny proportion, but it sort of represents a collapse of critical thinking. Because here's the thing. I know it makes a difference. I don't think it makes a difference. I know it makes a difference, having done it a number of times over the years. And then having that information corroborated by other people who know.
Sure.
Not who think. But some dude out there in internet land has never tried it or can't hear it. Conclusion, it can't be true.
Right.
There's no critical thinking there. There's no logic to that conclusion. The only conclusion is, I can't hear it, or I don't want to hear it.
Dead Racer X says, critical thinking? Sir, this is the internet.
I know. It might be true. That's your only conclusion. It might be true. Not some dude on the internet said it isn't true, therefore I'm going to believe that.
Yeah.
And I can't get my head around that. Anyway.
Jacob Backer says, all this talk about guacamole and salsa. Soon Dan will be having some microchips. Very nice.
Thank you, Jacob.
Very nice.
Thank you. That's good. That was a nice icebreaker.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that's my plea for critical thinking. If you know anyone who doesn't, please help them to understand what that is. Internet. Hello from San Diego, says Ronald Elish.
The meaning of which has been lost over time.
Hello from San Diego. I'm a fan since 2016.
Oh, bless you.
And it's rare to be off work for Q&A. Thanks for joining us. He said, you are inspirational and helped me get through some hard times. I have a wet, dry rig, hand-wired Princeton clone, and a doctor said therapy, low-powered Tweed Twin. Awesome, Ronald. Wow. It's really nice to hear from you. And thanks for the comment. Hopefully you feel at home with these lovely people here. And I think it's our final super chat tonight, but I will check. Scent of a wheelchair pillow. He says, I saw Simon was in town. He means Simon Jarrett of Kingsley Amps. And Pedals, any new videos with him on the horizon? Also, when is the Riviera Paradise video coming out with Tim? I can't wait for that. I need to remember to give Dan the media, because it's done, but I've forgotten to give Dan the media.
Yeah.
because he needs to add something to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you right now, Dan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just finishing off editing the Dave Kilminster video, and then that will be the next thing I do. There's a really, really interesting conversation. Tim is such a beautiful, learned educator, and it was fascinating fascinating day going over that stuff. And it was just a conversation going over those changes and what's actually going on and what's happening harmonically, and why is it when I hear that tune there's certain things I can't get on board with. And Tim was amazing at breaking that down and saying this is what's going on harmonically. And very cool.
Talking about what's going on harmonically, one of my 6 things this week was the aforementioned Paul Stacey, his brother Jeremy, keyboard player Jason Rebello,
Yep.
and with apologies I can't remember the sax player's name and bass player's name, but equally incredible musicians, did a jazz gig in Freeman. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Square peg,
round hole.
Yeah. And it was I've genuinely never seen anything like it in my life.
So unfortunately it tends to be on an evening that I'm not in Frome.
Yeah.
And he's texted me a number of times. I'm like, oh man, can you do it on a Monday night or do it on, But man, if you ever get the chance to go and see Paul Stacey play, it's just astonishing.
I'm just going to give you both of these discs.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the raw media is on one of them, and then I edited it together on the other disc. Except there's only one disc now, so we'll leave it there.
Okay.
Don't forget to take it. Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was just astonishing. I've seen Paul do a few things, but I've never seen him do that before.
Right. Yeah,
Just
that's his thing.
Yeah, really astonishing.
Yeah.
Really astonishing. Yes. So we didn't film a full video with Simon. We've done a lot of videos with Simon, and we're kind of a little. Yeah, maybe we should have done, but I think it was a difficult week and some other things, and we've done so many videos with him.
Yeah,
we decided not to do one this time around. However, he did show us some really killer stuff.
Amazing.
Which will come to light in due course.
And then he picks up the 335 and proceeds to just blow our minds.
Yeah, I put a short out of him just having some noodles.
What a magnificent
pretty amazing
guitar player.
Actually, someone asked earlier what is our favourite pot noodle flavour. Talking of noodles,
I'm happy with any pot noodle flavour, and I'm happy getting multiple pot noodle flavours and mixing them together. The big thing with pot noodle, for me, is you don't pour it into the cup and put the lid over it and wait for a couple of minutes. You put it into a little saucepan, you boil it, and then you crack an egg into it. You mix the egg into it.
breaking the egg.
Yeah.
So it's like egg boiled noodle.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
It's really...
That sounds like kind of relatively Eastern influenced.
No, it's poor student influenced.
Yeah, but you'd get an egg in certain broths.
Oh yeah, if you go down to, if you get like a ramen and they put an egg in it, but it's magic. It just gives it a bit more.
Yeah.
Because a normal pot noodle there is like negative nutrition in that thing, so it just gives it a bit more.
Allegedly. Just in case Golden Wonders lawyers are watching this. Who owns pot noodle now? Probably. I'm trying to find out who asked the question. Bombay bad boy for me, but only when
That's brilliant.
Significantly drunk. I can't eat that sort of stuff sober, I'm afraid. Actually, when was the last time you had a pot noodle? Do you have pot noodles in America? Do they exist in America?
I don't know, but it was invented in Japan, that process, and there's a museum. Like they call it something different in Japan, but there's a whole museum about the whole thing, and it does look amazing.
Pot noodle.
Noodle.
We would call it, obviously. Sorry, I can't find out who asked the pot noodle question. So my apologies. Oh, it is a soft G, says Sean Jeremilatos. Apologies, Sean. No, sorry, totally missed the pot noodle question. Cup of soup.
Cup of soup.
Cup of soup Ion in Canada.
Nice.
In Canada. Cup of soup. See, we have cup of soups here, but that's just like powder that then becomes soup.
Yeah. Isn't that good?
No, it can't be good, can it? Po noodle must be ramen, says Dalton Peters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to the toilet paper.
Yeah.
Which is... Oh, is it charmin? Oh, it's...
Scott from Baltimore and Jay Foster say are also asking if it's ramen. I think it's... What calling a pot noodle ramen would be like calling... It's too elevated, I think. Ramen has some class to it. It has some flavour. It has
some nutritional content.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Matt took us in Tokyo? Matt took us out for that noodle.
Yeah.
Thing, like the first day we were there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
That was very good. Scott Pickett, happy Monday, gents. How often do you get to gig live?
Well, hopefully.
Not very much.
No, not very much. But we are going to get the band back together. I need to get out and do some stuff. So we've been talking about how we approach that. And we are going to start doing it. Because I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd always try and keep something in the diary like once every month or 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot. When we were both younger, we both played a lot. So Dan played professionally for years and toured, and when I was much younger, I played a great deal. Like, 3, 4, 5 nights a week for a good few years there, and then I don't know, couple nights a week, and then one night a week, and then
couple of nights
every other month,
yeah.
and then once a month, and it just gets less as you. It just has got less. So yeah, but it's what I was reminded of, which I get reminded of every time I do a gig, is just how different it is from being in here.
Yeah.
What a completely different. Everything is different.
Sure. That's interesting.
Headspace, sonics, time, everything is completely different. It's a different sport.
Sure.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I forget how much I love it.
Right. Well, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this a Nick Huber guitar, says MBB?
Sure is. It's the Nick Huberist.
Yes, it's a Krautster 2 is what it is. It has a very particular voice, that guitar.
It does.
Has a undeniable mid honk of some note.
Of that note.
Yeah. Yeah. Graham Campbell says it's like calling a Glaria custom shop Strat. Yeah. Yeah. Right then, come on then, let's see if we've got any questions coming in. Lots of pot noodle comments, which is good. Cup of noodle in the States, says James Blessed. Cup of noodle. Heisa Tassa says moon. That just means hot cup, doesn't it? Does it mean hot cup?
Hot, what's it called?
Heisa.
Heisa?
Heisa Tassa. There it is. Heisa Tassa. Tomato and mozzarella. Buy online now.
Did you see that guy make a guitar out of pot noodle?
Oh, shut up.
No. He got a whole bunch of sort of uncooked pot noodle, crushed them all up, and put them in a used, what do they call that? It's like a epoxy resin.
I was going to say, did he do it in epoxy resin?
And like did the whole thing, and it's amazing. Let me find it for you. It's brilliant.
It wouldn't matter what the if you've got epoxy resin, it doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. But it was really good.
Jeremiah Daniels. So I was looking for the gold top.
It. Look at that. That guitar
is made out
of pot noodle.
Look at those carrots. They're so scary when they come out. Jeremiah Daniels says, so I was looking for the gold top play-in discussion during the Les Paul versus 335 video I rewatched. Where can I see that, or could you chat on it? Was it not in that video? Maybe we only used Dan's Les Paul in that video. The gold top does get used quite a bit in our shows. Have we? Surely it was in that video.
I can't remember.
Maybe we did it so long ago I didn't have it then. Okay, so it is a this is for Jeremiah Daniels. Hi Jeremiah. It is a Murphy, not a Murphy Lab. It is a Tom Gibson custom true historic Tom Murphy 1957 gold top.
So this predates Murphy Lab?
Yes.
Right.
This is an actual Murphy.
Right.
And whether that's significant or not doesn't really matter. It was bought by
Of course it matters.
Well, it was bought by my friend Neville from World Guitars in Stonehouse in Gloucestershire. And Neville did what he usually does.
Stonehouse, where the demons.
He walked in the shop and said, "What's the best guitar in the shop?"
Right.
And they both pointed to this and said, "It's that." And I've never been a Les Paul person. I love the sound of them. I love the look of them. I like everything about them except playing them. Because all the ones I've had have sounded too thick and middly for my personal taste. I also ergonomically have found them difficult because they tend to be heavy and they do that.
Yeah, right.
Most people don't like SGs, right? Because they do that. I love that because something about the ergonomics of the way I stand. However, I borrowed this guitar from Neville, and within about 5 minutes I'd made the decision that one way or another it was never going back to him.
It's the most astonishing thing.
And it's just... So for a lot of people, if you like really sledgehammery type bursts, thick, you probably wouldn't like this so much because it's super light sounding. It's an extremely present sounding guitar. But it does get used quite a bit on the show. I usually, if I'm going to play a humbucker guitar, I usually pick this up. And it's ace. And I apart from Saturday night when I didn't take it, all the gigs I've done in the last, since I've had it, I would play half the set on this and half on my Strat. Which I never would have done in the past because it just would be too thick sounding.
Yeah, but there's a clarity in that Les Paul that it's unlike any other Les Paul I've heard.
Yeah.
And yet it's like when I hear that, it's like it's how I've always wanted a Les Paul to sound.
Yeah, I've played one other like it, and that's Pete Honore's 59.
Right.
Murphy.
So here's Murphy as well. Wow.
Yeah. Actually, to be fair, Jake Loosemore's just got a Murphy Lab, and that is an astonishing guitar. That is also a wonderful guitar.
Right.
Yours is a wonderful guitar.
It is a wonderful guitar. I do love it.
I think we should... oh, it's in the case. We were going to do something, weren't we? We're going to put 550s in it. 550k pots.
Yes.
Let's totally do that.
Okay.
Because I reckon your pots measure low.
And I might want to change the tuners as well.
Yeah. If they'll fit. I don't know if you have to drill them out for Grovers, but
Oh, okay.
we would have to see. We'll have to see. Right, sorry. Good. Bob Saxon wants to know, why does my Boss DS1 turn on automatically when I turn on the power supply? I have a Boss Blues driver that does not do this.
So it's the transistor that's used to do the switching. Basically, when it powers on in the on position. Now, there are mods that you can do to reverse that. I don't know if the new DS1's still. I don't know if that's an old thing. But yeah, it's just the nature of the transistors used to do that, the switching, the FET switching.
So that is as it should be then.
Yeah.
Oh well, didn't know that. In the Harmonious Monk Mark II, don't you know, you can set it to be on or off when you power it up.
Right.
Which is really handy.
Sure.
What's the weight on the gold top, says Brad Guitar Man in Texas. It's just a shade under £8. I think it might be 7.9 pounds or something. It's nice, it's lovely and light. Maybe it's 8.1. I can't remember. I did weigh it once. Some people would find that too light for a Les Paul, but I don't. Right. I like it.
Do you find... So the guitar weight thing is really interesting because there's a... Like, red's not particularly light.
No.
But it's got a sound. And I remember playing... Like, Yamaha SGs are some of the heaviest guitars I've ever picked up, but I've never played a bad one.
It's a bit like vintage guitars, isn't it? Where I would say all the best guitars I've ever played have been vintage guitars.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that
all
every vintage guitar... Again, it's just basic logic. If anyone's interested in this, read a book on logic about... I won't go into it, but about basic premises of things that are said. All the best guitars I've played are vintage guitars. It does not mean that all vintage guitars are brilliant.
Yeah.
All the best guitars I've ever played have been lightweight.
Sure.
And when I say lightweight, I mean... And when I say the best, an entirely personal opinion based on personal taste, which has no meaning outside of my brain.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that you will find it to be the best guitar. So shouldn't really use terms like best. The guitars that I have liked the most
have
all been vintage and have all been light. Which doesn't mean that all vintage light guitars are the best.
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, got it.
That's an assumption that you make from that statement.
Sure.
So yeah, it's controversial, isn't it? It's people get all... I wouldn't not buy a guitar because of its weight.
Yeah.
If I liked it.
Yeah.
Unless it's really, stupid heavy.
Sure.
That's a different thing. That becomes a practical point rather than a tonal one.
Sure.
Yeah. Steve. Oh God, this is a bit of housekeeping. Steve, he says, "Hey DNM, just a huge thanks to you and the team. Just opened my emails and I'm amazed to have found I've won one of the giveaways. Wishing you all the best." Yes, of course. Check your inbox. We gave away 4 JHS Series 3 pedals this week. And the winners are, this month, should I say, sorry. Michael from Calgary in Canada. Congrats, Michael. Stephen from Manchester in UK. Gary from Brisbane, Australia.
Hey.
And
Gaz mate.
Gaz mate.
Hey, Gaz mate.
Gaz mate.
Come on.
That's a fine looking sheep.
Barbara.
Barbara. G'day, Barbara. Kevin. Oh dear. Noel said the C word full on the BBC last night.
No.
Yeah. Dan and I were lucky enough to be invited. Oh, sorry. And finally, Sean from Rosedale. Going down to Rosedale. Is it Rosedale? In Crossroads? Take my money by my side.
I don't know.
No, maybe it's Rodale. Maybe it's Rodea.
Roadie.
Yeah. Anyway, Sean from Rosedale in Maryland, USA. So Michael, Stephen, Gary, Sean. What's that? Canada, UK, Australia, and Maryland. What an international bunch we are, Dan. What were we talking about?
Us going to Noel.
Oh yes, we went to watch the filming of Jules Holland Later live special with Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. It was a very, very moving experience.
It really was.
The sound in Ali Pali there, Alexandra Palace, was crazy good. And then the mix they've done for the TV show, because we couldn't, crazy good as it was, the strings weren't massively prominent. He had a whole orchestra behind him, or half an orchestra behind him. But in the mix they've done for the TV, it's really nice.
Wow.
So Later Live with Jules Holland with Noel Gallagher, it's a brilliant show. I think I can see you and Liv.
Really?
Just.
Okay.
But you can't see me and Paul.
Right.
So we're just where the light goes. But I think I'm pretty sure I can just about see you and Liv in one shot.
She'll love that.
Yeah.
Noel came down afterwards, and because we'd filmed with him like the week before, and when they invited us to go down to that filming, and so he came down and said, "Oh, you've made it, great!" And I introduced him to Liv, and Liv couldn't believe it. And one of her friends is a massive Noel fan, and she's generally pretty cool about that stuff, but she was so excited to meet him. Anyway, the following day, her friend starts talking about Noel, and like, yeah, I met him last night. I was like, what? So funny.
Cool. So we are galloping towards the end of the show. Lots of people saying, yeah, it's not about the weight, it's about, do you like the guitar? I agree. It's such a personal thing.
Totally.
And it might seem from the outside like people like me and Dan are here on the internet trying to tell everyone what's best, and it's not. A personal opinion comes out. Hopefully what people get from that pedal show is just play what you like and love playing. That's it. That's all that matters, really. It just so unfortunately happens that we ended up here, which I still don't really know how. Okay, well let's we'll finish on two questions. A quick one from Zoo Allure. Dan, when are we going to see an update on your beautiful acoustic, your Kincaid?
Yeah, so that's a show we need to film, because it's the guitar is very different now.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the recording chain I used when we did it, but so that'll be different too.
Sure. Yeah, but yeah, what an astonishing instrument. So yes, we will get that done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We will. And finally, Deer Creek Audio will be the last question tonight. Thank you for being here, everyone. It's great to hang out on a Monday night. We really enjoy it.
Love it.
Friday's show is going to be the Bingo Pedalboard Challenge.
Bag balls. That's
all we'll say.
Really funny.
That's all we'll say. Oh, Neil from NRG's on. Hello, Neil.
Oh,
He says,
g'day, mate.
all right, lads. Currently wiring up a load of fresh pedals to show off at the Brighton Guitar Show in a couple of weeks. Either of you going? I'm going to see if I'm free, and if I am, I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like a guitar show.
Yeah.
It's just
I'll see if I'm free, and if I'm free, then we'll both go.
One of the brilliant things about middle age is weekends are usually full of other things you have to do.
Jobby jobs.
Life things.
Yeah.
So we'll see. If I've got no life things to do, I'll go and enjoy myself.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
I'm joking. So we'll finish with Deer Creek Audio. Deer Creek Audio says, have you guys ever had long hair past the shoulders?
Oh, my word. All right.
Oh, God. Have I got
Come
a
on,
picture
then.
of me with long hair? The answer is yes. Dan and I both had very long hair.
Yep.
I had long hair from age 17 to about, well, I had it right up until my mid-30s, on and off.
Okay.
Early 30s.
Someone sent me this picture. Check that out.
Oh, that's spectacular. You please show the people that.
That's funny.
Mate, I think it's a strong look. Show the people.
I'll show the people. There you go. This is my. That's the HM Strat as well. The pink HM Strat. So I think what am I, 16 or 17 here? Let's see if you can. There you go. Check that out. It's like just come off the set from Neighbours. There you go.
That is really spectacular.
Yeah.
There is a picture that I do have, but I have literally got no idea where it is. I'm sorry to say.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh, that's so annoying. Yeah, I've just literally got no idea where that might be. Yes, I did. I had very long hair. I had hair down to about here.
Really?
Just long, dark girl's hair, basically.
Wow.
Like Francis Rossi type hair. And that was me for many years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. All the Spinal Tap stuff. So when we did our little tour of Germany, going onto the army bases,
right,
ladies at the back, etc.
See, and then that happened, and it's like, I can't do that.
I think it's a good look. Like Crazy Professor. Show the people. Sorry, I can't find mine. I don't know where it is.
Then it all starts going. Let's see.
Yeah, you need to come back a bit from that. There you go.
Yeah,
it's a sort of mid-career John Schofield look. And then when you just go to the full egg.
Yeah, full egg. Full egg.
Okay, right. Thanks for being with us. I'll try and fish out a picture of me with long hair for the next Q&A. But I did. In fact, if you look at my editor's picture in Guitarist magazine from about 2007, I had relatively long hair, so down to about here.
Right.
I think, and that was at the point where it's like, now, mate, this needs to go, because I'd had it short. I got it all cut off at uni for our last leaving do thing. I had it all cut off for that, I think. Anyway, good night. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your continued support and generosity of this idiot's endeavour. Where's that, Dan? Do you know any boys, though?